Good morning. Morning. I see here we have many of my fellow AM Lockport Toastmasters in attendance here. I see online several, as you can see behind me, several of our members are online. And I don't see any guests, unfortunately, today, but today is a speech contest, our humorous speech contest. And evaluation. Thank you. We're going to start today's meeting with an inspiration from someone you may have not seen in a while, but she's back in person, live, and here to have a great time, and has even jumped in to be a speaker, which is excellent in our contest. Her name is Kristen Franklin. That has to be like 2 inches from your face.
Hello, everyone.
There you go. Perfect. Live.
I haven't been here in a long time. I'm so glad to be back. I have signed up to be the person who delivers the inspiration today. And in preparation for my role, I thought about what inspires me, who inspires me. And I realized that the people of Toastmasters probably inspire me more than any people I've ever met in my whole life. They take risks. They're generous to a fault. And they're constantly setting the bar higher and higher for themselves. That's inspirational to me. I want to wish everyone a wonderful competition today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Excellent, thank you. If you could please rise.
Move your hats. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Seats. One of the great things, I think, is that we record our meetings and you can go back and see them again. And I see that a lot of mornings, I'm not 100% on top of my game first thing in the morning. Also, if I don't have my coffee, there's a lot of uhs, ums, so's, ands, and I lose my place when I'm speaking. So to make sure that doesn't happen today, I'm going to offer a toast that we're all awake, we're all taking in enough coffee, that we have a good meeting today, and we don't have any brain freeze.
No brain.
This morning I woke up and I felt like today was going to be a good day. And then the day turned against me. I went outside and I was blocked in. My vehicle was blocked in. And I put away the grill, which I left out last night. We tore down our deck, so it's stored in the garage. And we pull it out in the driveway, which is what caused it in the first place, my own laziness. But not putting the grill away caused me to become blocked in the driveway. And then I started driving in and the E-light was on my gas tank. Again, I saw that yesterday, could have taken care of it and didn't. And then I got here and I'm like, I don't have any paper or pens or anything. And again, I searched through my car, but that was me again. I did that to myself. One of the things that I think helps is preparation. And as Phil, who had to sign off, always says, practice, practice, practice. And he does that with his speeches, and he does that, I think, throughout his whole life, which is why he's going to live to 100. The people will have heard of his speeches on that. I think that our contest is going to go well today. Katie did some good preparation on this. Got some people to sign up. Without any further ado, I guess, I'm going to hand it over to her. Go ahead and call up the speakers to start our contest. Everyone, Katie. One more coming.
Test. Everyone
There
can
it is.
still hear me? Excellent. It's so good to see so many faces this morning in person and on Zoom behind me. And we'll just do some housekeeping to get started with our contest. Thank you very much for joining us today in person again. And we'll talk business after the contest. Let's get through the contest, but then we did have an officers meeting last month and we haven't really reported anything on that. We'll be having another one soon. So we have to talk about how hybrid is going and moving on. We'll do that if we have time today, and it looks like we probably will. But let's get to the contest first. We do have some changes on the agenda. If you are online, I hope that you are looking at the agenda from our website, and the rest of you in person, we did have that up front. I appreciate that you picked up ballots also, because you may want to make some love notes, some commentary to the speakers, even though not everyone is judging, so to speak, but everyone can evaluate. We always appreciate that very much. So in the lineup for today, we have a couple of changes. As Phil said, sadly could not participate, so you can cross him off. We do have Kristen Badgerbach, who signed on to do a hip pocket humorous speech. So we'll stay with Jennifer Zappla as our first humorous speech contestant today, and then Kristen Badgerbach as our second humorous speech contestant. There is still room from anyone from the floor who is interested in speaking, but they cannot be already serving another role. So if you already have another assigned role, then you cannot be a contestant. That's some of the rules will still follow. Again, to remind us, this isn't going to another level because the district isn't having a fall contest right now. Not sure if that's permanent or temporary, but they will have it again in the spring. So this was great practice for that. So we can be better prepared for our spring competition, even though it's international and tall tales. The methods are the same, the practice is the same. And then our target speaker, thank you, Dr. Gerald Stevens, for offering to be our target speaker. And he'll be evaluated by contestants so far, Tom Moran on Zoom and Jackie Kenny here in person. Again, as you can see, there is availability if you'd like to be a contestant. And thanks, Dave, for coming and joining us today. If you'd like to participate, let me know. But he comes at least. I know that Margot is not a fan of contests at all, so we don't see her on contest days, but Dave came. And so we'll move right along, and we will forego some of the formalities that the contests have because this isn't moving along. You don't have to sign off. We might do some interviews as the timing permits, but we will get right into our presentation today, unless we have any questions or announcements. Any announcements from the floor pertaining to Toastmasters or anything else? Kristen Badgerbach has something to say. You can say it from here. Welcome home. Would you like the microphone? You can stay right there or not.
Evaluations, things like that. We might be able to do a whole 38 minutes on evaluations with the lucky. So, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I want to brainstorm about that because the time is short. It's the season of COVID. No one can come to the school except me. And so if you can help get.
Thank you, Chris. Some folks were already talking about going over to Tom's for breakfast this morning. You can go downstairs if you'd like, but if you'd like to go over to Tom's, if you have time, if that makes sense. I know I carved out some time because I'd love to reconnect with Chris. And she had a great idea. We worked together, and DECA participants volunteered for some fundraising and worked at the Celtic Festival last weekend, 2 weekends, whenever it was. And all of you who participated, and we really appreciate all of your efforts. So there was so many community groups involved, and we're still sorting out all of the hours and everything. So that'll be in the next week or so.
But thank you for those of you, whatever you do, whether it's Toastmasters once in a while, Toastmasters every week, we appreciate everything that you do. It's a volunteer organization like that. So that's what we appreciate is you do what you can. We've heard that Mike Reinbold and Edna both have some health concerns. I really was upset that I missed Edna the last 2 weeks in person. I wish I could have been here to see her, but she'll keep coming back as she can, but she said not to put her on the schedule. And again, as a reminder, I did email out, if you need to be on the schedule or off the schedule in any way, please let me know. We need a Toastmaster for next week, and I know some of you are ready for that. So if you'd like to be Toastmaster for next week, let me know. That's the last third quarter meeting. And I'm right now preparing with Lens Assistance the fourth quarter. So let us know what you can do, or just jump right on and sign up. So thanks. We got all that housekeeping, et cetera, out of the way. Any more announcements from the floor? All right, we have time at the end. Dues are due today, tomorrow, today. So thank you for those of you who paid already. And you can text Sylvia or any of the officers after the meeting if you have any questions. Marty. Yes. The remote control, it was being tested. Is that still working on it? So thank you for that. We do have David Jones is our timer on Zoom. So we can, fortunately, Jen is our first speaker also on Zoom. So Jen, watch that timer, please. I'm looking at you because I am, but I know I'm not because I'm not facing you. So challenging. So Jen, I think you figured it out, okay? So follow along. David is our timer on Zoom. And Marty is our timer in person. And we have Jennifer Zapla with our first speech today. Jennifer, are you ready?
I am.
Well, then I will say, let's be ready for our first contestant in our humorous contest today. She is ready. We are ready for her. And it is Jennifer Zapla, Cliff Camping, your most important questions answered. Cliff Camping. Your most important questions answered. Jennifer Zapla, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master. I'm really excited to share with you my recent experiences with cliff camping. Now, I imagine that some of you may know what cliff camping is, but perhaps not all of you. So I am going to share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that. Here are a few pictures of exactly what cliff camping is. In the picture on the top left, I am not in that picture, but that is where I slept, in that tiny little dot. And you can see a couple of other pictures of being on the portaledge or permaledge. So that is what cliff camping is. Okay, my speech is over. Just kidding. A little bit more about cliff camping. Now, what I've noticed is when you tell people that you've gone cliff camping, first they have a reaction, and that reaction is either, oh my God, that sounds amazing, or, oh my God, are you crazy? One or the other. And then they have a series of questions that they very predictably ask. Now, a couple of these questions are, how high off the ground were you? About 150, 170 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. That's where I slept, on that little ledge. It's about, 3 by 7, 4 by 7, something like that. And I was sharing that ledge with a second person. So that gives you a little bit of an understanding of exactly what cliff camping is. But ultimately, there is a single question that people ask. And that question is, what happens if you have to go to the bathroom? Now, I want to tell you, folks, that I went cliff camping with my boyfriend, and I warned him ahead of time. I said, we cannot poop on the cliff. That is not happening. That is automatic grounds for ending this relationship. I am not old enough to be pooping in front of a significant other, nor do I ever want to witness a significant other pooping. So we got that out of the way. There will be no pooping. However, you're out all day, you're climbing, you're in the sun, it's hot, you're drinking a lot of water. And at the very end of this day of climbing and exercise, they give you a beer. So peeing is probably going to happen. And now if you're a guy, you know, peeing might be a little bit easier, just based on your anatomy. However, if you're a woman, it can be a little bit more difficult. So luckily, they make these devices here, and they supply you with one of these when you go cliff camping. So this is my funnel. It is a funnel, and this is what you use as a woman to pee on a cliff. I really want you to take a look at this funnel. Now it's silicone, so it means it's a little bit bendy. It's a little bendy, which makes it kind of difficult to maneuver into your clothing around a harness, by the way, around a harness, and to not squish it out of place. Like a funnel has a function, you know, you put things in, things come out. And there are only a couple of issues or concerns about the funnel. One of them is really just keeping the funnel in its funnel state intact. So that was a little difficult to maneuver into the clothing and do. However, my cliff camping guide, although he's never had to experience quite what I did, was smart. And he did tell me ahead of time, listen, when it's time to go, you can try to go like off the side of the ledge, but this is a very, very narrow spout and you would have to stand very close to the edge. So that was not what he recommended. Instead, he gave me a 16-ounce can to use to funnel liquid into. And I thought like, oh, I could do this off the ledge, but maybe I should just take the can in case. Now there were 3 people on the cliff besides me. 2 were guides and 1 was my boyfriend. And luckily for me, the 2 guides at one point in the evening said that they had to go and rearrange some things, or I don't know what they were doing, checking on something. Maybe they were just being really kind and giving me a bit of privacy. I don't know, but they disappeared. And now I'm there on the cliff ledge. And my boyfriend is still there with me, and he decides that I'm standing way too close to the edge. So he's holding onto the back of my harness at this point in the experience. And I start to go. I got myself all maneuvered into place, and I'm going, and things are going pretty well. You know, I've got the spout in the funnel, everything's working out. Now there's another part about funnels that I forgot to mention, and that is this end is narrower than this end. So although I thought that I had this all set and ready in place, what I didn't realize was that the funnel could overflow like rather quickly. Unfortunately for me, so I panic. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I have about a half a can. Like that's probably enough for the night. I'm like, get myself all together. I clean up. I'm ready to go. And the next thing I know, I'm like, this is not going to work. These guys are going to come down. It's going to get dark. I need to try this again. I feel like I still have more. So I maneuver myself back in place and I'm going again. And now I'm controlling the flow. So it's taking a much longer amount of time, but I'm going and going and going. And I'm like, I think I'm going to fill this can. And my boyfriend's like, you're not going to fill the can. I'm like, I'm filling this can. And the next thing I know, the can is overflowing. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, you have to be done. I said, I'm not done. I am not done going. So I continue on. I empty the can. I continue on. And I am just going and going and going. And he's like, how are you not done? The guys at the top are like, can we come down yet? I'm like, no, stay up there. So I finally finish going. 2 cans later. 2 cans later. And for the rest of the trip, every time I told my boyfriend that I needed to go to the bathroom, he asked me, 1 can or 2? Thank you, Madam Toastmaster.
Timers, can we please have 1 minute of silence if you can manage it? 1 minute of silence. Our judges will complete their ballots. Please write Any love notes you'd like to send to Jennifer? And you can compile them to me if you'd like, unless you'd rather send them to her directly. That's fine too. But if you'd like me to compile any in person, I can summarize them and send them to her. Not summarize, add them all together, compile them and send them to Jen. Is our time up according to the green light? Thank you very much, David and Marty. And Len for the assistance. Okay, we're getting situated for our second and final speaker. Again, our judges should have Kristen's name on there, so make sure that Kristen is on as our second competitor today. Are you ready? Are you changing back to this? Yes, understood. I like it better myself. Okay, our second contestant today. Welcome back to Kristen Badgerbach. Squirrel Invasion. Squirrel Invasion. Kristen Badgerbach.
Can I be anywhere?
You can, but the camera is straight ahead. Well, judges are here.
We are at top left. Far left.
Okay, right here. Is this good?
And timers don't start until she begins her speech.
We've had a squirrel invasion. Jerry and I usually spend our lives loving watching the squirrels. And this year we have a bumper crop because our foxes have mange and they're in terrible trouble. It's really sad. But the foxes usually like to have squirrel food a lot. But they're sick, they can't hunt. The squirrels are going crazy. We have every color and shape of squirrel. And we watch them going in and out of the wood pile, which has lots of old wood with holes in it. And the little squirrels are making little condos in the holes of the wood. And the bigger squirrels are putting their nuts and pine cones everywhere up in the trees. The other day, Jerry was going off to golf and his car wouldn't work. It wouldn't go into reverse and it wouldn't go into second gear. So he came back to the house and borrowed my car and he had his car towed to the dealer. And a few hours later, he got a text from the dealer with a picture from underneath his hood where there were all these squirrel nests and roasted walnuts all over the place. And we looked at one another and we ran out to my Jeep and opened it up. And under the hood was a gigantic nest. We are losing our love affair with our squirrels. Now every day we have to open up our hood and look and see if anything is going on in there. And this morning I was afraid to turn the ignition on my car for fear that someone would go, ah! But no one squealed and here I am. And I'm so glad to be back at Toastmasters. Madam Contest Master.
Thank you so much, Chris. All right, 2 minutes, because she's our final contestant. So 2 minutes of silence from both of our timers, please. And our judges will tally those ballots. And please write love notes for Kristen.
Thank you. So uncontested, even when they're perfect.
Thank you, everyone. Timing. Our 2 minutes is up. Typically, we take a break in between contests and do the tallying and do interviewing, etc. Because it's a brief contest today, I think we'll roll right together and do our second portion. And then all the tallying and counting and timing, etc., can be at the end. That's something that we'll get together as the team of the chief judge and counters and so on. So if we are ready to move on, and it appears that everyone is ready, our timers are ready here. Our contestants are ready. We have Tom Moran as a contestant, and we have Jackie as a contestant. We'll keep the order the same. So Tom, you'll be first, and then Jackie here in person will be second. Mark, this is a great opportunity. Here you are in the meeting with no role. Mark Campos, we strongly urge you. Yes, you, Mark. Mark, I know I'm not looking at you. I'm trying to look at you. Would you like to also be our third competitor on Zoom today? How's your timing look? Sir. Thank you.
Are you asking me to, I'm sorry, for evaluation or for?
Yes. Do you have the time?
Yes, sure.
Thank you, Mark. Mark will be our third contestant today. Anybody else from the floor? Anyone chomping at the bit to participate? Oh, then you'll have assignments next week. I can't wait. Excellent. So our first contestant for our judges' ballots will be Tom Moran. Our second will be Jackie Kenny, and our third will be Mark Campos. Thank you for accepting being voluntold. We appreciate it very, very much. And David Jones, yes, I got your message. Thank you. Tom, did you have a question? Yes.
How do we work this, you know, in evaluation, usually the speaker speaks, then we leave the room, prepare our notes.
Ah,
our
that is a
notes are
good
taken.
point.
We don't
We
hear
don't
the
hear
other
each other.
evaluators.
Can we go by the honor system that you don't? Jackie will leave. I mean, I'm not sure if this matters since it isn't a moving along kind of participation.
I don't know. Is that what you want to do? Yeah.
Your cousin
could-
Jackie is arguing the point that it probably is unnecessary. She'll leave though.
Well,
Yes.
I'll let Jackie go first. Is this the point? That if Jackie went first, then the point would be moot? I don't think so.
No,
we
because
can't
then,
hear.
no, because then we,
Yeah.
who's the other evaluators?
It's
It's-
Tom Moran on
It's
Zoom,
myself.
Mark, you on
Right,
Zoom,
so-
and
so-
Jackie. You
so the
shouldn't hear
prob-
each other?
We shouldn't hear each other. So
Right.
the only thing I can do in my case is I'll take my headset off and then just call me. Oh, well, I won't be able to hear you.
Wave at you?
So never mind.
Okay, well, you know, you're gonna listen to each other maybe, and that's, I mean, okay, Larry's gonna handle it.
I'll private message Mark.
Perfect. So Mark
Oh, all right. Yeah, that'll
will
work.
be
Yeah.
available on chat or private message. Chat, are we saying chat?
Chat.
So the chat on Zoom, keep that on so you can see it. We'll keep the order the same. Tom will be first, Jackie will step out, we promise. And then Jackie will be second, so Tom will hear her, that's fine. And then we'll pull Mark back in. So you get a little break, Mark, actually. Thank you for volunteering to be a contestant. And we are recording this, so if you do want to watch each other, you can afterwards. Remember that. Thank you, Tom, for that excellent point.
Yeah,
of order.
I was just channeling my Maryland beam. That's all.
Thank you. Marilyn is with us and she's making sure we're following procedures. We appreciate that very much. Okay, everyone can get back on mute. Any questions? Because that may have been confusing, but I think we all are on the same page. Fantastic. Okay, then I am eager to introduce, and I'm sorry for leaving the lectern, but I'm eager to introduce our target speaker for today. Everyone ready? Fantastic. Dr. Gerald Stevens, America the Beautiful. America the Beautiful, Dr. Gerald Stevens.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. What inspires you? I asked you, fellow Toastmasters, Madam Contest Master, and any guest we may have. To me, America the Beautiful inspires. So back in the day, me and my wife, she in particular, saw this book called America the Beautiful. And I will pass it to the crowd. And it contained lots of pictures of our great country. I happen to have this book, which is a national park book. And this also inspired me. So together, we're equally inspired to see the wonders of this great country. And because of this, I have wandered around and seen a few things at this point. Most recently, I went to 6 national parks in Colorado and Utah. I do have a PowerPoint here, which I'd like to reference in regards to America. You can see here in Maine, they have lighthouses, and that's one sea on the Atlantic. And then we have Santa Monica here on the Pacific. Some sea to shining sea, America the Beautiful, right? Like the next slide, then. So our first national park that we went to most recently was the Great Sand Dunes National Park. And the Great Sand Dunes were created by wind. It is the biggest sand dune in the United States. And all the mountains were worn away and they made these big giant dunes. So when we went out there, we started walking in the sand, and initially it was some hiking. And we start walking like, oh man, this is really hard to hike. Like, it's not really that high, but a little bit. And I said, well, I'm going to climb up to the top of the high dune. And my wife says, well, have at it. So I'm going to sit back here with my umbrella and watch you. So that's what I did. And it was a little harder than I thought, because it looks really close when you start hiking, but it's really far away. And then it's not straight. You go up and down these ridges. But was it worth it or was it not? And it turns out that it was. And you look at this picture here, you see from the top dune, certainly. You see those tiny people in the distance, and you see these footsteps. When I rested, I sat on the top of the dune, and you can see the wind blowing the sand, much like you would see in a snowdrift off the edge. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. When you travel and see these things, you can't get those things in pictures, right? You have to do it in person. You can't smell, you can't see, you can't taste, all the fine things you would see when you travel. Next slide, bud. The next national park we went to is called the Black Canyon Gunnison National Park. And to me, a description that you might understand, these giant cliffs they have there, think of a marble cake. Okay, so a chocolate marble cake with maybe some vanilla streaks through it. That is what the cliff looked like to me. And they were really steep. So when we're walking around the cliffs and taking these little hikes from the viewpoints, they have these barriers to try to, so you don't fall in over the cliff, right? But you want a good picture, right? So I'm like, well, how am I going to get a picture of this straight down? And you can see a picture there. It's not real great, but I'm just over the edge like this. Don't drop the phone. It's worth too much money. Don't drop the phone. Don't they make handles for these things? I don't know. They might, but I didn't have one. So I struggled to get the end. To give you a reference of how deep it is, it's actually higher than the Empire State Building. I know, they can fit the Empire State Building in this canyon. So, but it was really beautiful and definitely worth seeing. Next slide, man. Next one we went to was Mesa Verde National Park. And that contains Indian cliff dwellings, which have survived all these years from the Pueblo Indians. And they missed this really good construction because, as you can see there, they're kind of hidden in the cliffs, but they're still standing. And that's a long time ago. So they have all these viewpoints you can look at for the cliff dwellings, which is cool. And these aren't the only ones. There's lots of them there. We did do a little hike there to Step Pyramid. So we're able to explore the inside one of them. They had some ladders you can crawl around and look on the inside. I did look around for a little gold, maybe a little treasure. Didn't find any, so there might still be some there. Might be worth checking out in the future. Next slide, Len. Next one we went to was Canyonlands National Park. This is a gigantous place. So there's a north and a south when it comes to this park. And when we went into the south portion of it, there was a rainstorm. Yes, doesn't that look desert-like? There was a rainstorm, thunder, lightning. The ranger on the way in says, well, your car is probably going to be the highest piece of metal in the area, so you're likely, if there is a thunderstrike, to hit your car. Like, thank you, that's great. That's encouraging. All right, so we get electrified. Oh, and also there's flash floods. Warning today. Great. Well, I'm not going to go deep in the canyons. No big deal. My wife kept trying to get a picture of the lightning striking at the right particular time. Didn't happen. A video might have been better in retrospect. But as you can see in this picture, look how big it is. There's my wife there at the bottom, and there's the needles. You just go, wow, that's what I thought when I'm walking around. This place is huge, this is amazing. America the Beautiful. Next slide, bud. Next portion of the Canyonlands, the north portion, there are viewpoints certainly you can drive to and certain hikes you can do, but the one I wanted to talk about was the Mesa Arch. And you can see there where the sun rising, see my wife's there's a picture of that. You see that on TV a lot of times, but when you get to the arch and you look through it, oh my God. I just went, I don't do that very often, I'm just going to say. And you can see part of the view there on the other picture, and you go out and down, and it's just like immense. Wow. So if you ever get a chance to go there, this alone was worth the price of our whole trip, I think. Next slide, then. Capitol Reef, another park we went to. They did a Hickman's Bridge hike and saw some gigantic cliffs as well. Sandstone, beautiful, definitely recommend. Next slide, Len. And the last one was Arches National Park. Pretty well known for the delicate arches you see on TV all the time. Balanced rock like a Roadrunner cartoon. And definitely some nice double arches. That's my favorite. I actually climbed up to the top of that one as well. So it was pretty cool. So in conclusion, fellow Toastmasters, definitely take some time to explore America the Beautiful. Last slide, bud. And you too may have some fortune and glory, kid. Madam Contest Master.
Is the time? Timer's 2 minutes. 2 minute silence.
Test, test. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll keep the order of our evaluators. Tom, Moran, then Jackie, then Mark. So Jackie is now leaving the room. Thank you, Jackie. Take a chair. Go to the cafe downstairs. We have 3 closets. You can. There's a window view in the windowed closet over the canal.
Bye, Mom.
Yeah, she took a book. Oh, like a sound booth, soundproof booth. All right, the timers have set our time. We're not very good at this silence, keep silence kind of a thing. So our timer's ready for the timing, the traditional timing. Excellent. So we will move along into our first contestant in our evaluation contest. Coming in from Boston, Tom Moran. The floor is yours, Tom Moran. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master. And thank you, Dr. Stevens, this morning for your speech. This was an interesting speech in that it's done before a mixture of audiences. That's hybrid meeting presents a lot of difficulties when preparing a speech. It's easy to do in front of a crowd. Standing there watching you, you have a certain presence that you can rely on a lot of different feedback from the audience by being there in person, but you also have a Zoom aspect to it where you don't see the people and their reaction to the speech. So it's difficult to perform the speech. And I like to compliment Dr. Stevens on doing a very professional job. I was very impressed with how he performed this morning, and the insertion of the mix, the screens, the displays that he had, and showed us the different places that he had been was very well done. And you can tell that he had prepared for this because he had someone in the audience actually changing the screen for him as he went along. So it wasn't just something that he put together the night before. He's been working on this, and we all appreciate it. And we all learned this morning from a speech. One of the important things when you're doing a speech is that you convey some information that the audience can use. And I don't think there's anyone here that would not like to go out west and see the canyons and just walk around like Gerald did, and maybe even get up early and see a sunrise at one of those canyons. I likes to compliment also Gerald's physical appearance this morning. He put on a sport coat and a nice shirt and khakis, and he looked very professional in his speech. Some of the things that I think he could have improved on, I didn't, what threw me when he said change the screen all the time. I wish he would have maybe had some signal or cue for the person who was doing that would have changed the screen for him, where it wouldn't have been so audible so that we could have heard it. I would have liked to see maybe fewer pictures on the screen and maybe enlarge those pictures that you already had, because the pictures of the arches and the places that you have been are the important things. And I liked the different lands and how he described them. It helped with his speech. It helped us understand it. In conclusion, one other thing I think he should have done in his conclusion was maybe have stopped the screen share when he got to the end and actually put the hat on himself, instead of having a picture of himself with the hat on, gone to the full screen again. It would have been very impressive. And once again, thank you so much, Jerry, for the speech this morning. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom. 1 minute of silence for our timers, for our judges. Our second contestant is Jackie Kenny. Jackie.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master, and good morning, everyone, especially Gerald. I knew I would enjoy your speech because I'm always interested in your adventures. You had a wonderful display on the screen with Len's help. You also had beautiful books and your Indiana Jones hat to remind all of us. It was just there on the table, reminding us that you have had many adventures that you shared with us. And you do it so well. You painted some very nice word pictures this morning to share your exultation at the beautiful images that you stood in front of. So awesome and breathtaking. It reminds us who we are and anchors us when we look at scenery that is so magnificent. It's amazing. And it keeps us in touch and grounded, I think. So thank you for sharing that with us. You always do a good job. You have a good vocabulary. You enunciate well. And I appreciate that. However, stop using so many ands to connect all your thoughts. Break it up a little bit, stop and pause and give us time to appreciate. The Beautiful word pictures were echoed in the slides that accompanied your talk. You put in some humor into your speech, and we always enjoy that. We've heard a lot about difficulties in camping today, and I was kind of thinking while you were talking that I imagine there were some difficulties involved in appreciating nature and also taking care of your needs while you were out in this giant sand dune wilderness. If you are in awe of that one particular scene that you pointed out to us, when you have seen so many amazing things around the world, I'm thinking that we all need to put that on our bucket list because it has to be an incredible spot to stand in. So thank you, Gerald, for sharing all of that this morning. Very nicely done. And I appreciate your sense of humor and your adventures, which I will not be going on. Thank you.
1 minute of silence from our timers for our judges. And Larry, if you can chat Mark to be on deck.
Done.
Thank you, Mr. Timers. Our third and final contestant today is Mark back on. It looks like his headset is ready and he's gotten the message. Our third and final contestant today in our evaluation fall contest is Mark Campos. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Contest Master, fellow Toastmasters, and especially Gerald. Good morning. America the Beautiful. What an amazing and ambitious speech. He had it all going on today. He had visual aids, he had props. Let's start with his strengths as a speaker, and they were abundant this morning. First of all, once again, no notes, very seasoned Toastmaster. He doesn't need anything to help him get through the speech. He was in front of the lectern, which I thought was very good. This format is really tough in terms of movement, and I'm sure, Gerald, you felt a little bit of that because you're trying to stay in front of the camera, but I commend you for being in front of the lectern. Your gestures were on point, very expressive, very demonstrative. They really added a lot to the speech. You had vocal variety and a lot of humor in the speech. Terrific job. Now, building upon all these strengths, I think your speech could have been even more effective in just a few ways. One of the challenges you have with visual aids, particularly a PowerPoint that's behind you, is there is a tendency to be looking at your slides a little bit too much, and you're talking to your slides, which happened a few times during the speech. Secondly, your eye contact is normally on point. There were a few moments in the speech, particularly during the slide transitions, when you asked Len to advance the slide, where you were looking down and around instead of at the audience or at the camera. And I think to combat those two things, one of the advantages might have been to have the laptop, if possible, positioned where you could see it more in a frontal view, so you're not turning behind you. Also, a remote clicker helps, and I've got one that I can donate to the club if we find it useful. The only other thing, in the beginning, I felt a little neglected. You weren't really looking at us on the camera, but as the speech advanced, you remedied that and you started to bring us in a little bit more. But overall, I loved your speech as you took us on more of your amazing adventures. I have to admit, your speeches make me feel very inadequate about my own existence, which is apparently very boring. I haven't been nearly as many places as you have, but truth be told, my plans, especially in retirement, are to travel more and experience more of this great country and this world. And your speech just served to be even more motivation in that regard. Great job, Madam Contest Master.
Thank you, Mark. Mr. Timer's 2 minutes for our judges to compile their tallies. I'm quite glad that we're doing this right now in the fall, actually before the spring contest, to practice the hybrid model and in general, get back into the swing of doing contests in person. After a year and a half of not doing contests, I mean, how many DTMs do we have in here? And folks who have participated or competed or judged, and when there's still a little bit here and there, we're working the kinks out. I apologize that I did not announce the timing for our timers, of our speeches, of our target speaker, and for our evaluators. Since you were so skilled and no one gave any objections, you did know what you were doing, so I appreciate that very much. And typically our counters and chief judge would go out of the room. We could have arranged a table for that to be in our separate room over here. Today, we're not going to do that. They'll take care of that. It does give us a couple of minutes we could do some interviewing with any of our contestants today. I feel like I want to bring Gerald back up because I want to hear more and more about America, the beautiful. So Gerald, come on up, Indiana Jones. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the audience clapping too. And for everyone, where are you going next, Dr. Stevens? Do you know?
I do know. I'm trying to follow Dave's example. I'm going to head to Hawaii. That's the next one. Dave had a nice adventure there. I thought that was pretty cool. Don't go to COVID Hawaii. Wait for the real Hawaii. I have not been to Hawaii before, so I don't know if I'll know the difference. Hopefully the beaches will still be open. You can walk around.
found out how old I am. When I went in, the water was very tame, and I went to get out, and I tried to, kind of crawl out. I just stand up and the waves were whacking me in the back, and I went, oh, and I called my son.
Dave is giving a detailed account of his beach experience here, which didn't sound like he had a great time. But there are a couple national parks there that I will be seeing, and I know Dave said that he did see some lava,
Oh, did I?
and I want to see that. So hopefully it'll be a little more exciting than Dave apparently thinks it
Lava
is.
gets old real quick.
So I will attend a luau. I hope that's just got booked, so that's
nice.
okay. So some pig maybe that might be fun. So.
Thank you so much for coming up and placating me there. That is great. Kristen, did you want to, while we have some time, bring up any more details about the school? For those who cannot stay or linger, if you have, if we give you 3 minutes, let's say,
I'd like to know how
to-
Kristen found it.
she's a smart lady, how she found us. She has her ways. So if you'd like to, maybe even, what time is it now? Timers or anybody?
8:08.
8:08. Oh, we have time. You want to take 5 minutes and discuss up to 5 minutes? Take 1, take 30 seconds, take 5 minutes. And that gives kind of everybody something to think about DECA and whatever it is you have questions about. Because if you can't linger afterwards for breakfast because you have work or other obligations, you can still reach out to Chris with ideas. So sound good? All right. Thank you. We did not meet as a group in person last year, obviously at Lockport High School, but we are this year. But it's a very controlled situation, and so we won't be able to have any guests. But we have a 38-minute period. These are, excuse me, new people to Toastmasters. And so we have the job of trying to help them catch the spirit of Toastmasters, how to create a cohesive group, how to coach one another in a humane and constructive fashion, friendly way. So evaluations are important. Preparing for every job. I think one of the weaknesses in the club is that people don't take as much time to prepare for jobs as they do here at AM Lockport. And somehow they're not understanding the importance of that. And Tom, you're out there, I think. I think that you could contribute to this discussion too. That's one of the things that we need to try to remedy. How do we get the students to take more time with their jobs? Understand that for every job, there's a whole learning unit. So those are really the 3 things: evaluations, creating an atmosphere of trust, and preparing for every job. But Tom Moran, can you add anything to that?
If I could get myself unmuted there, I would. Yeah, I missed the program quite a bit. I've been looking around up here for something to do. There are a couple of schools with a DECA program, but I understand what you mean. And that's not an anomaly this year. That previous years the students failed to do even the simplest things. They would come in, like the jester would come in that morning and look up something on their phone rather than try to do something that would address the theme of the meeting. They would just pull up something. So there wasn't that feeling that you were a part of the meeting and that you had responsibilities there. I think it was just that they would show up and do their check off their duty for the day and be done with it, which there is a lot more to running a meeting and being part of a meeting than just showing up. You have to prepare yourself for it. And especially the little jobs, they get overlooked and they're very important to the meeting, the inspiration, the quote, the gesture, the evaluations. And the evaluations, I think, were one area too, Chris, that kind of lacked because the students weren't as, I guess, not critical, but they weren't as intuitive as to what sort of things would make that speech better. They would just come up and reiterate what the speaker said and take it from there. That was the evaluation. The evaluation to them was they actually heard the speech. So there was very little good information that would help the speaker the next time around. So I see your dilemma. I wish I was there to help. I honestly do.
Two. Thank you so much. I do think that the students do progress. I do think the students do progress. And sometimes they amaze me how insightful they are with one another. But I think with the evaluations, a lot of times they don't want to say anything negative to their co-learners. Yes.
Can I jump back? in here
Yes.
too?
I haven't had a chance to even tell Tom or Kristen or Eric an encounter I had with one of your former DECA students about a month and a half ago. And you just brought up how evaluations are challenging, and they were for us too as adults to evaluate each other and in a clear way and not feel that you're being judgmental or that you're going outside of bounds. And so as a young lady who Mom and I know because she does our hair, she is actually training to be a hairstylist, and her name is Jaden, if that name sounds familiar. She said she was in DECA for a long time. It was at least 2 years and maybe even a third. She said it was unusual, but she started as a sophomore. And it's interesting because Pam, who most of you know from Rhetorical Roar, she was looking for a hairstylist when she moved to Lockport, and I told her to go to this cousin of mine who runs a shop nearby, Vita and Violet. So Pam and I, if we ever are there at the same time, all we talk about is Toastmasters in general. There's other things that come up, but they overhear us talking about Toastmasters. And Jaden, who does more of the shampoos and the assistant skills, overheard us talking and said, "Oh, you're talking about Toastmasters." Oh, I was in DECA. And I said to her, even when I first met her, I thought, "You're only 19. You seem so confident on the phone. And when you're talking to customers," she seemed like an older soul, or she just was more seasoned at speaking. And in general, even when we were teenagers, it was tough. But now I think it's even tougher. They're used to just being on their phones. They don't talk with each other or with adults. And it's something that it's challenging for them to communicate. They can't do the kinds of things that we may have felt like we were used to at their age. They can do other things better, but that's a weakness. And she said, that was all DECA. That was all Toastmasters. She said, "I was so nervous at the beginning, but it was pretty interesting how we would look to each other and Mrs. Batcherbach and Mr. Moran, and who's the other one, the younger one? Oh, Mr. Schneider." And they loved that all three of you were part of guiding them. And it's long term. It's not just a one-off. It's not just for a week. It's constant and it's building. And so what you're doing is, you know already what impact you're having, but I thought that was pretty cool that she was confident also to tell us all about it. How many kids could do that and just interject? And that speaks volumes for what you're doing and the impact you're having. And so just like it's tough for us to be getting through all of this with COVID and hybrid and in person, this isn't easy for the students, for the teachers, and they're making it work. So I applaud you for going on your own. You're always good at bringing in others for the workshops or the sessions. I had no idea you couldn't until you just said that. Maybe you had it in an email and I missed it. But oh my goodness, we have some outreach to do, and we can keep doing that. You already have such a foundation built. How many years have you been doing this now?
2012.
9 years. 9 years. We can't let this go. It'll be a decade next year. We have to do what we can to keep the Lockport high schoolers getting stronger. It's all we can do. We don't have to be related to them. They don't have to be in our family. It's like they're our Toastmaster family, even if it's just a little bit. I didn't mean to jump in, but I had to when I remember Jaden talking about her.
And I'm
She's-
sure Tom remembers her
Definitely. So thank you, Tom, for interjecting as well. And I believe yeah, well, thank you. And if you'd like to stick around afterwards to give Kristen feedback or Tom, please email them if you cannot stay, if you have any suggestions or ways that you can help. Okay, I think we'll wrap up our contest too, because I believe our chief judge and counters and tailiers and timers have evaluated everything. So I will get the results there. Any other announcements for the day? Anything you'd like to share? David, would you like the microphone?
Or I can help you.
Oh dear.
All right.
A very small thing, but I think it's a nice touch. We need to have a slide on the screen just before we end the recording that says, "This has been a Larry and Lenny production." That's my thought for the day. Very brief. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We can add that in as a notation, but we also can say it. Maybe David can be our producer. He already does that very well. Or maybe not. Okay, I'll announce our winners, and I suppose you can clap for everybody. The way this works, we'll say that we had a disqualification by time. So I feel badly that I didn't tell Kristen she should speak for 5 to 7 minutes. So that is on me because she didn't hit the 5-minute mark, even with the buffer. So I apologize in advance for that, but I do applaud you, and let's all applaud Chris for jumping in with a hip pocket speech on her first day back, as well as beautiful inspiration and guidance with our students. So our first place winner back at home in her home office today is Jen Zapla. Congratulations, Jen. Oh my. Oh my, we had the visual aids were so much help. Oh my goodness, I'll never do that. I'm definitely in the camp of never in my life. Never, never, never. I have no interest, zero interest. I'll go camping, I'll go hiking, that's fine. I applaud you for having that on your bucket list. And we were joking over on this table. We're like, well, Jen's pretty small. Well, your boyfriend is not. He's pretty tall. So good luck if you do that in the future again. It sounds like you had that out of the way. Here's a good practice run. Okay, we'll move on into our evaluation contest. Again, thank you, Dr. Stevens, for being our target speaker. And our second place winner, we announce it in that format when we have our 3 contestants. Our second place winner today is Tom Moran, and our first place winner is Mark Campos. Great job, all of our contestants. Bravo. Thank you very much. Thank you for doing this, even though this doesn't go on to the district. This was great practice for each and every one of us. It was great to hear each other speak. It was great to have this as a test run for when we do it again in the spring, when we are competing at the district level. And let's show the district we know what we're doing. Just, oh. Love the trophy backgrounds there we have. Tom Moran, he's a big winner. Was that actual photo of your actual trophies? I don't think it was, but it could have been. Okay, any announcements or anything to wrap this up? Okay, stick around for post toasties on Zoom or in person. We have to pick up the room, and hope to see you at breakfast and give Chris feedback. I have to, split club. Well, I'll invite Tom, Mr. President Thomas Heldwine back up to close our meeting, and maybe he can draw our split club winners. Unless he wants to have somebody else do it, that's going to be up to him. Thomas, we'll wrap it up.
Thank you very much. Very well run, Katie. Everyone, a round of applause for Katie for putting this together. First, I guess we should probably draw. Who has not put in for the 50-50 split? Just no. Just I don't want someone who put in to draw. That's what I'm trying to say. No, you're drawing the winner. I'm not, no. Oh my goodness, I would never. No.
Came back, welcome back. Where's your $1?
There we go. There you go. Thank you.
039.
Steve, good job, Steve.
039.
All right.
Don't forget that you can put your name on the back and put them in the second place winner.
Second chance. Jared.
I'm running around here. This is fine.
4, 6, and 4, 7.
All right. Our next meeting is October 7th here, 7 a.m. and also on Zoom. A lot of positions are open to include Toastmaster. Gerald wants to be Toastmaster.
What
What,
a nice man.
did you have a theme in mind already, then?
No, but
Okay, you'll come up. Okay, no, that's fine.
biggest thing was don't be off the cliff.
Don't be under the cliff.
Well, I, you know those large Gatorade bottles? I never thought I could fill one of those. And
Oh, look.
Too much info.
you're driving. Oh, come on. She talked about 1 or 2 cans.
I have a question.
Yeah,
What did she do with the can after she filled it?
Poured it out.
you pour it out
That's what
over the
Jill said.
cliff.
You don't want to be under it. Don't be under the cliff.
Yeah, don't camp under the cliff. That's not a good place to camp.
She only had one fan.
Windy
so
days
that's
are terrible.
okay.
The title of her speech
All right.
has been cliffhanger.
Tell her
Yeah, it's a real cliffhanger. All right. I think we had all the announcements out of the way. Reminder again, if you have paid your dues, pay your dues. I think we're good there. I think we're pretty good. I'm going to be sending a notification out to the other officers for a meeting next week or so, that we're going to do it at the end of every month and get together. So that's what the plan is for October. So we can start doing a little more formal planning. And other than that, I have nothing else. I know we all want to go over to Tom's and get a cup of coffee or something else. So since Dave is freezing, we'll get him over there, heat him up.
Just the old guy.
Yeah, well, that's all right. And that, I guess, concludes the meeting.
Want that alone?
I don't know where my mallet is.
Gavel, sorry.
Gavel.
There you go.